afternoon, everyone. Thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us for this webinar. My name is Rick Huddleston, and I work with the DWD Tech Group. We're a Sage 100 partner located in Northeast Indiana, and we provide Sage 100 support services to companies throughout the Midwest and beyond, actually. Today, we've invited Altec to show you their document management solution called DocLink, and the goal is to show you a more effective way to manage everyday business processes by going paperless. We'd love for this session to be as interactive as possible, so if you have any questions during the presentation, feel free to type them into the question box. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Kurt Hickson, Altec's Sales Director for the Central and Midwest region.
Perfect. Thank you, Rick. And good afternoon, everybody. I am Kurt Hickson. I am the Sales Director that covers our Central and Midwest territories here. I am going to be walking through a presentation of going paperless with DocLink for Sage 100. A couple things before we jump into this is DocLink is really an enterprise-wide solution. We cover automation across the enterprise. It's really hard to jump in and show you a demo that covers everything all at once. So today, really, the goal is going to be to get the gears shift towards document management and learn some more ways on how document management can fit into your organization. So with that being said, we'll go ahead and get started here. Here we go. So I like to start with this screen because it kind of shifts gears into starting to think about document management, right? So we live in a data-driven world, right? We are so used to getting instant access to everything we pretty much need with a few clicks of a button when we're on our laptops or a mobile device, whether you're looking up, movie times or recipes or it's work-related, right? You're sending emails, you're signing contracts, you're moving things along the pipe there. So the idea here is we've gotten so used to having this functionality, but the thing is we seem to throw it out the window when we step into our workplace, right? We do things limited in the office, and you might think that routing a document through email is the best way to do so, and it's really not. You have no visibility, anything like that. You can't find it easily when you're searching for an email on your mobile device or just from Outlook or Gmail when you're sitting at your desk at work, right? So that notion of being able to just log on to an interface and type in a few keywords to pull up information pretty much goes out the window, right? So when you're searching for a contract, you can't just log in and put in a couple keywords and find it easily. So that's what we need to start thinking about, right? Is how are you storing your documents today? And more often than not, it's going to be one of these three, right? It's going to be a filing cabinet. It's going to be the next step, which is network file share. With network, this works good for maybe a week or so, and then naming conventions come into play. Security becomes into play. The issue there is it's just not sufficient. And then the last one is going to be software. Maybe you're using a current third-party software today or a homegrown system, right? Either way, you're probably at a good spot if you are using software, but maybe you're lacking some of the functionality that you really need to help streamline your business. And that's where we come into play as DocLink. So the majority of us, being the end users out there in the world, face challenging problems when it comes to managing documents, right? And I think one of the biggest ones that we hear throughout our visits and talking with customers and prospects is we do it this way because it's always been done this way, right? And so what that leads to is it leads to these problems you see here on the screen, the silos of business data, right? If you have different departments, no one knows where documents are for each department because maybe they're doing it a different way, right? They're storing or managing their documents a different way. If you're using email or manually walking over an invoice for approval or visibility of a document on someone's desk, that's inefficient, right? That leads to lack of visibility, security, and compliance things, right? Operational inefficiencies. These are all problems everybody faces, right? And the key with document management, and particular DocLink is we're going to ease these pains, if not get rid of them completely, right? To give you power back of your documents. So you need to ask yourself, a couple questions as we move along here. Now, these are very simple questions, but if you are going to shake your head at any of these questions here that you see of touching or moving or filing paper, if there is a manual process behind sending documents around the organization, or if you're doing a ton of data entry, so if you read these 3 questions and if you're shaking your head at one or all 3 of them, then you are in the right place and we need to have further discussion, right? Because again, we're trying to get rid of this. So what we need to understand is what DocLink really is, right? We got to start at the beginning. So we understand that you have a ton of pain, and that's probably why you're here today, sitting in, but we want to discuss a little bit further of what DocLink is and what it can do for your organization. So at the end of the day, just to keep it very simple, DocLink is an integrated document management solution. What does that mean to you? That means we are essentially an electric filing cabinet, if you will. So we have the ability to capture documents as they come into the organization or as they're created, right? So if vendors are sending in invoices, we'll capture those. If you're creating purchase orders internally, we'll capture those and store those in DocLink, right? Now, the key here is all that information is coming in or being created. So now we have a single point of access of that in a document repository, which allows for search and retrieve, right? So now is the area where you're able to log on to an interface, simply type in a few keywords, pull up a vendor invoice, and then you'll be able to see the corresponding documents to that invoice as well. So maybe if a check was cut or there's a purchase order attached to it, you're going to be able to find all that with a few clicks of a button. So capture and storage, the main part of DocLink. Then we start taking it a step further and start applying process rules to it. So now we can route documents via workflow that's going to be audit trailed. There's going to be a full, complete audit history that helps with compliance and audits and things down the road, but it also gives you visibility to know where documents are at any given time in their cycle or process. And then one of the last parts here is, since we have all the documents in a central repository, now we're routing them around through the organization using workflow, we want to be able to send those documents out as well. Now, I know you can do that today in the ERP itself. However, we take it a step further when we allow you to send out corresponding documents, so supplemental documents with the initial document you want to send out. So the nice thing is you're not sending out one document at a time, you're sending them all out in attachments. And we'll talk about this a little more here as we move along. And then the last bit here of DocLink that I really want to bring to everyone's attention is going to be our DocLink Smart Form Toolkit. DocLink Smart Forms are essentially a configurable window that we can create or allow the end user themselves to create. And what that is we replace any paper-based form that you use internally today. So for example, most common use cases for this smart form is going to be maybe a check request or an expense report, right? A lot of organizations use Excel for expense reports. What we can do is recreate that Excel form as a smart form. The end user then fills in that smart form, attaches their receipts to the line level. With our integration, they can even pick the GL account codes that they want, route it through workflow for approval, and then go to AP for processing. The nice thing about the smart form is we eliminate the duplicate entry because we capture everything when that document is being created by the initial end user. So by the time it gets to accounting, everything's good. It should be coded. It'll be approved. They can go ahead and process that expense report. If you use Excel today, there's a lot of duplicate entry there. So that is what DocLink is at its core, right? The ability to capture, search and retrieve, route through workflow, send documents out, and also do some document creation. So let's move along here in terms of integration, right? So I think one of the big things about our product is we are the Sage endorsed document management vendor, and that means we have a deep, deep integration into Sage 100 and beyond. But the idea here is we want to build upon your initial investment that you have made into Sage and the customizations that you've probably gone through, right? You don't want to recreate the wheel. You just want to build upon what you already have that is stable. So that's where DocLink comes into play. We plug in nicely into Sage 100. We push and pull data/information very easily. So it's a great build upon on your initial investment of Sage 100. So just showing you a quick little snippet of our integration here is what you see on the screen. This is what we call our ERP integration, right? Which is going to be called our Geo Distribution Stamp or Geo Smart Form. And this right here is really a snapshot of the software itself. This is a non-PO invoice being coded. So you see the invoice will be on the left. It's been captured, right? It's the digital capture of that document. And then on the right, you're going to see where it's a little hard to see, but that is going to be the information that you're coding, right? So you'll see that there that you'll have your Geo account code that you can choose from. The highlighted one in blue, you'll notice there's a little box next to that. If you were to click that box, a drill down or a drop down would pop up with all the GL accounts that you could choose to allot that invoice, allot to that invoice. So the nice thing is we're drilling back and pulling all that information from the ERP. So all this header information where it says Fabricam and below that, that's all information that resides in the ERP and will pull over, right? If it's a new vendor or something like that, we would simply just create a new vendor and move it along. But the idea here is all this information has already been captured. The idea is we'll capture it once, we'll bring it in, and then we'll reuse it many, many times. That's where the integration comes into play. So moving forward now into accounts payable, this is, I think, 9 times out of 10, the people that come knocking on our door at DocLink is because they have an issue with accounts payable. And their issue is really going to be, self-service document, right? Access, being able to find those documents when they need approvals on time, right? And they want to eliminate ultimately filing cabinet and pretty much data entry, at least minimize it, right? So streamline approvals is always a big one, right? So DocLink is going to help with that. So one of the ways we can help streamline approvals is going to be the self-service document access, right? So we not only give you your standard interface on your desktop, but we also provide a web client. So these are for the road warriors that need to access documents, right? That aren't always in the office, so they can jump on the web client on the web, pull it up, look at their documents, easy access, pull up contracts, things like that. And then there's also a mobile app, right? Everybody's connected to their mobile device today. There should be no reason that someone can't simply approve and deny a document via their mobile app, pull up a contract if they're on site with a customer or a prospect. So the idea here is we eliminate any bottlenecks, right? We give access through various platforms for them to get their job done in a timely manner to streamline that process. And this is all secure, right? The ERP integration, just going back here, is key once again. So here you're going to see an AP invoice entry screen. Now, if you're an AP clerk or just work in the AP department and you live in Sage 100 today, you don't want to have to jump between 2 platforms to access information, nor do you want to have to sift through a pile of invoices that are on your desk or walk to a filing cabinet to find documents that pertain to this invoice, right? So what we do is we give you the power to sit in Sage, and within certain screens, like this one, the invoice entry screen, there's going to be a view documents button. If we wanted to recall that invoice or any corresponding documents to that invoice, we can easily do so with a click of that button. No more going to a filing cabinet, no more going through that big stack of invoices on your desk. It's all there with a click of a button. Secure, right? This is a roles-based solution. So depending on your role in the organization, you're only going to see certain documents that pertain to that role, right? So if you have multiple companies set up in Sage, that end user logging on, depending on their role, would only be able to have access to the documents pertaining to one of those companies, or maybe all of them, their department, certain document types of property values, right? You don't want people going in and seeing sensitive information. Maybe you have HR information in here that doesn't pertain to somebody in AP, right? So this is a roles-based solution here. And I mentioned this at the beginning, compliance. With compliance, we have all that information. It's all stored. It's all been audit trailed, been through workflows, been captured. We know who's looked at it. We know who's approved it. We know if there's any markups or changes to the documents. It's all in the repository. If you get hit with an audit and they give you maybe a date range and a type of document they want to see, you can go into the system, put exactly what they're asking for, pull it down, upload it onto a CD or a USB, or actually give them access to DocLink itself, only to those information or those documents critical to that audit, for them to get in and out of the organization in a fast manner. I think the biggest thing here for a lot of people is the fact that there is no more need to really prep for an audit. And the second best thing is there's no more refiling after the audit is complete. I think this is one of the biggest things that people overlook when they're evaluating a document management solution. We have all that information. We can create those reports. We can give that auditor all that information very, very easily. And people overlook this time and time again. But this is huge. If you ever get hit with audits, you need something like DocLink in place. So I mentioned you can approve documents from anywhere, basically, right? Because you're connected to the mobile device. You can do it through your email provider, so if it's Outlook or Gmail, or go through the app itself. You can set up reminders, right? So if people don't approve that document initially, when they see it, they get sidetracked, or maybe they're on the phone, they open the email, and then they lose track of it. They'll get a nice reminder, right? Maybe that's at the end of the day. Maybe it's every hour, depending on how much you want to bug them or bother them, right? But the idea here is we try to give you no excuse to get documents processed and through the workflow. If people are out of the organization, you can delegate workflows, right? So that means when someone is gone, it's kind of like Outlook. You just set your reminder saying, hey, I'm going to be out of the organization for this period of time. Someone is going to approve these documents on my behalf, and they will get your workflow. The idea here is to keep the business going, right? There's no bottlenecks. And then that person, when they come back from vacation, leave, wherever, they're not going to be swamped with a bunch of documents in their workflow. It's going to hopefully dissipate a little bit because you're spreading it out to some other users, right? So they can hit the ground running when they're back in the organization. So eliminating filing and data entry, right? We'll touch on capture here a little bit more as we move along. But the idea is to automate your capture. We have various ways of doing so, and I'll touch on these individually here in a moment. But really the idea is we have various ways of capturing those documents. We leverage the existing information in the ERP, as I mentioned, which eliminates or reduces human error, right? When you're keying in a bunch of information, you're bound to make a mistake from time and time again. So we want to eliminate or reduce that completely, and then that leads to an automating of indexing. Indexing is property values that we're capturing, on that invoice or document that is being brought into the organization. So let's talk about capture. So you'll see here, this is what we would call our document viewer. So if I were to search for a document, or if I wanted to add some indexes to a document, you would do so through the document viewer. So we have various ways of capturing. You'll see here on the left-hand side, we have an email capture. So if you have a designated AP email inbox, or any email for any department rather, where documents go in, we can monitor that email, bring that information into DocLink like so, and then from there you can begin your indexing of that document. So no one has to monitor the email. We do that for you. The system does, that is. We have what we call ERM. It is an enterprise report manager. ERM is the ability to capture documents that are being created from a third-party product. So in this case, again, as I mentioned earlier, if you created a purchase order in Sage, you already typed all that information in. There's no sense of printing that out, scanning it back in, and retyping all that information. What we would do is we'd simply just pull that information via ERM and bring it here, and all the corresponding information would flow over with it that has been keyed in, right? So now you're going to be able to search for that document, no duplicate entry, anything like that. We have drag and drop functionality. If there's a document that's saved on your desktop, drag it over the DocLink icon, drop it in, it is now in DocLink. We have barcodes. And then the last one I want to touch on, outside of scanning, scanning's pretty standard. It's for the snail mail. You open it up, put it on the scanner, bring it into the system. But OCR is, I think, the busiest word, or the biggest buzzword rather, that you hear when it comes to document management. Everybody wants OCR. They think it's the next best thing since sliced bread. And the fact is, OCR is a great tool. OCR, however, isn't for everybody. OCR is for volume. If you are a high volume-based customer, then you need to look at OCR. OCR is optical character recognition. What OCR does, whenever that email comes in, we grab it and we pull all that metadata off. When it's scanned into the scanner, we grab it, we pull all that metadata off, and we bring it in the DocLink. So now there's no more indexing whatsoever. It's all been captured immediately up front. And then if you have any, if you're using heavy purchase orders, we can leverage OCR to help do matches, right? If you're doing a 2- or 3-way match. But the idea here is once we captured, here's the document, the purchase order, right? That was created. It's first generation, straight from the ERP, and then you'll see on the right, just below where these purplish diamonds are, that's information that you can search by, and that's information that was attached or pulled off of that invoice. And this is how you're going to attach other documents to it by these property values. If you wanted to add additional property values, you simply could by doing so just above that, where it says property values, and typing in some additional information to allow you to search by. So that is captured in a nutshell. We have various ways of doing it. Not all companies are the same, so that's why we offer various ways of bringing these documents into the organization. And then we also have a mobile device where you can capture documents. Again, I use the expense report. This is a lot of times where the mobile device does come in, snapping picture receipts. But we also have trucking companies that have used it for damaged goods, or vehicles have gotten in accidents. They snap a photo of it and upload it to DocLink with the corresponding documentation, so they have digital proof of that. But the nice thing is you can pretty much capture anything and everywhere if you have a mobile device. So search and retrieve, since all that information has been captured, right? I just talked about that. Now we're going to be able to search for it again. The mobile app, web client, while you're in the ERP, very easy to do. And this is what it would simply look like, right? So if we wanted to search for a document in the Fabricam company, we would simply highlight what document type we wanted to look for. So in this case, it's an AP invoice. If we know that document number or AP invoice number or vendor name, whatever, we would simply enter it here. And then you notice we pulled up that AP invoice. So if we drill down to this AP invoice, you'll see that there's a hyperlink, if there's a purchase order attached to it, right? So if we wanted to open up that purchase order and that AP invoice, and maybe there's a packing slip or delivery receipt attached to that as well, we'll know. So let's look, and here you go. There's your purchase order, your signed delivery receipt, and your AP invoice, all attached by that simple search of an AP invoice. Now, if we wanted to open these up in a side-by-side fashion, you can easily do so. And this, again, kind of goes back to doing some of the 3-way matching or 2-way matching, if you will, in a very easy way, right? You can pull everything up and go about your daily duties with those documents, right? And you can even drill down to the check that was cut as well. So again, very powerful, easy. No more going to the filing cabinet, no more going through that stack of documents that is on your desk, right? So workflow. So workflow is very simple. You have a process in place today. We basically will duplicate that process within the system itself. If you ever want to change a workflow or anything, not going to get too deep here, but this is what our workflow configurator looks like. You can create your own workflows. You don't need to be dependent upon us or DWD to do that, right? So the nice thing is you have a process in place, we duplicate it in an automated fashion, and that also allows you to kind of revisit some of your processes. Maybe they're outdated or mundane, and we want to update those, and DocLink can help do that, right? So that's the nice thing. Another quick example of what a workflow would look like simply. So again, approving documents via the mobile device, the workflow delegation, as I mentioned already, whenever you're out of the organization, you can pass those documents over to somebody else to keep that business moving. So automated delivery. Let's talk about automated delivery here. Again, as I mentioned, you're able to do this within Sage 100 today, right? Send out information. However, with our distribution module, which is output, and any document that resides in DocLink today can be sent out. So in this case, we wanted to send out an AP invoice, or a AR invoice rather, customer invoice. We're sending that out, and with that, we're going to send the delivery receipt, right? So those documents can go out together, right? You're not sending them off one-on-one. If someone calls in saying, hey, we never received a receipt, you can easily pull that up in DocLink and fire it off in a one-off fashion, or you can have this as a timed delivery where all the receipts maybe go out at the end of the week and no one really has to think about it, right? Because it's streamlined. Let's talk about ROI a little bit. So if you're doing any type of offsite storage, we need to talk, right? Offsite storage is terribly expensive, and that cost typically will only increase. I think in this case, $85,000 in storage and retrieval fees annually for one of our customers. It might be a bit high for some, but maybe you're only dealing $10,000 or $15,000 annually. That still adds up, right? So we can eliminate that altogether. In this case, delivery, right? I think this is a big one. I think the biggest one on this is going to be the fact if you have multiple locations and you're still mailing or using some sort of courier service to send information between those two locations or multiple locations, you're probably spending a lot of money, and you probably don't think about it because it's just the way it's always been done, right? But postage is getting more expensive, FedEx is expensive, UPS, etc., right? So we can eliminate that by using DocLink and utilizing the workflow tools, right, to gain visibility, gain approvals, and all that fun stuff. So if you're doing any type of, postage, again, I think it's best to talk to us, and we'll determine the best route of getting rid of this additional cost. Adding headcount. Maybe you're thinking about adding headcount just to bring somebody in to do a lot of manual filing and things like that. We can eliminate that, put that time to a better use in the organization, right? Help the organization streamline more efficiently. So you can essentially get rid of having that filing cabinet, people filing, excuse me. So streamline approvals, right? So this is huge. What we talk to throughout this presentation is going to be the ability of to streamline approvals. You have the ability to do coding directly from DocLink, pulling all the information from Sage 100 to reduce it, catch all the errors before you actually post the batch in Sage itself. You have the ability to view all supporting documents. You can delegate workflow approvers when you are out of the organization. And again, really at the end of the day, we want to reduce errors, streamline the processes, and make sure we're leveraging your initial investment in the ERP. So why DocLink, right? DocLink, world-class product, rapid implementation, outstanding customer service. DocLink, just a little bit more about DocLink. DocLink is about a 30-year-old company. We've been in the document management space for close to 20 years now. We are, again, Sage's endorsed partner on the document management side. So again, we have been chosen because our product is superior and we have such a deep integration in the product that they tout us as their endorsed partner. We have about 3,000 customers worldwide, international. We have support 365, 24/7, 7 days a week because of that. So our support staff is based in the U.S. We have a few support folks sprinkled throughout the U.S., but the majority will sit in Tacoma, Washington. That is where our development office is as well. So that's a little bit about support. So I'm going to go ahead and open it up to questions. I know it's been a little bit of death by PowerPoint, so I try to get through this to get what you need. Hopefully you got that. Maybe we can address some questions now and then give everybody a little bit of time back in your day. So do we have any questions that came through there?
We do have I do see a couple. There is a question that says, do the users of the GL Smart Form need to be Sage 100 users or users of Sage?
Oh, that's a great question. No, they do not. That's one of the benefits of using the product, and we kind of sit outside when you're doing the coding and everything, is you don't need to use a Sage license. You would simply just use a DocLink license, and it's concurrent. This way it allows you to route that GL Smart Form around to maybe managers that approve and code documents, so that way they don't have to use a Sage license. They can simply do that all through DocLink.
Okay, and I have one other question that says, Autumn Reams is asking, in order to get timely approvals, do the people filling out docs and signing have to have access to Mass90?
No. Again, everything is pretty much done outside of the ERP. So it'll be done through DocLink. Workflows, alerts, all that will be notified via DocLink. Approvals take place in DocLink, and then when everything's been approved and is ready to be posted in a batch, you will move all that information or the batch into Sage from there to begin the processing behind that. But approvals, all that take place outside. You only need a DocLink license. You don't need an additional Sage license.
Okay, she also asked too, if a mistake is made, can it be fixed?
Yes, and that's part of the reason why we do everything outside of Sage to to allow you enough time to catch any of that information. We burn in that GL distribution stamp after the document's been coded for final review before it goes into Sage. And hopefully that gives you a second or third opportunity to make sure all the errors are corrected. And then if there is any errors, you'll be able to do so on fix the fly before they go into Sage. If they've already gone into Sage, you'd have to reopen that batch and do it from there as you would today.
Okay. And then Karen Huber is asking, where are the files saved at?
Great question. They will be stored in the same server as where your Sage ERP resides. So if it's on premise today, it'll restore stored there. We want to make sure that we have ties to the ERP to avoid any delays or anything like that. So we always recommend that we sit on the same server as the ERP.
Okay. Right now, I don't see any other questions.
All right. Well, if any other questions do come up, obviously, feel free to reach out to Rick or your contact at DWD, and they can reach out to me, and we can jump on a quick call, address those. Or if you're interested in seeing an actual demonstration of the product, which I'm sure you probably wanted a little bit more of today, we can definitely get that organized. The reason why, again, we don't jump straight into product is because our product does do so much, and you might be a little overwhelmed, especially if you're only looking to use it to like streamline AP or something like that. So we want to make sure we're only showing you parts of the product that pertain to what you're looking for. We are modular based as well, so there's a lot of functionality that has to do outside of AP. So we just want to make sure that we're covering all our bases and just letting you know that we'll need a quick conversation just to get a better idea of what you're trying to accomplish, and then we can set up an appropriate demo from that conversation. So that being said,
I did have one more question pop in.
Yep. Yeah.
One person is asking about costs.
Yeah. So great question, always comes up. Cost, I know you're going to love this answer, but cost is going to be determined on what processes you're trying to get in place and have DocLink fit in on those processes. So again, we are modular-based. Modules all vary in cost. So we would need to have a conversation to determine what modules would be needed, and then we could provide you an estimate of cost and go from there. So I know that was probably wasn't the exact answer you were hoping for, but it's the best one I can give at this time.
One more question. Does this work for accounts receivable as well?
Absolutely. Accounts receivable, HR, contract management, all that. So pretty much any area of the organization that has paper pain, which a lot do, we can handle. And again, that's where the modules come into place.
Awesome. Any more questions there, Sherry?
No, not right now.
Well, great.
Well, thanks a lot, Kurt, for joining us, and thank you, everybody, for taking time out of your schedule. And feel free to reach out to myself or Kurt if you have any questions. This will be the conclusion. So thank you, everybody. Thanks, Kurt.
Yep. Thank you. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.